Today, we are going to be talking about how link2pump can improve your fuel efficiency in a volatile market. I know we've all seen diesel and gasoline prices kind of fluctuate over the past few months. I think if you weren't already aware, now you are aware. That kind of thing can happen at any time, and now your 2, 3, 4%, fuel misallocation can quickly jump up to 6, 7, 8%, even if nothing changes. But before we jump in, my name is Jordan Smock. I'm a regional manager with link2pump. I've been here past couple of years, and I've already had a chance to help hundreds of clients reduce their fuel consumption through theft prevention, increase their tracking ability with instant transaction reports, reduce their labor through automation, and get them to a more efficient and effective fuel management solution. We achieve that a few different ways, but at the end of the day, we're really here to make sure that what you're using and what you're paying for are the same thing, and that there's no surprises when you reconcile fuel logs at the end of the quarter, anything like that. On average, fuel represents about 30% of most of our clients' operating budgets, and that's not including the labor it takes to account for that fuel, reconcile inconsistencies and chase people down who aren't doing their logs on time. If you're not tracking where that stuff goes and who's using it, and get out of hand pretty fast. So today I'm going to show you the step-by-step playbook that the most successful U.S. fleets and construction companies are using to achieve true, fuel management efficiency and protecting their bottom line against fuel price spikes that we've all seen. Over the last decade, link2pump has gotten to the point where we now track over 2 billion gallons of fuel and other liquids every year. I've got a couple of dairy clients and people who use our systems for water. Really doesn't matter. We currently have over 5,000 units across multiple continents with over 400,000 vehicles under remote management, all with a 97% customer satisfaction rate. We do this by listening to our clients, giving them all the data they could ask for while making the platform and user interface simple, and by guaranteeing every piece of link2pump equipment for life. No hidden fees, no transaction charges. We stand by our equipment, our software, and we offer a long list of free API integrations like telematics, accounting, invoicing, HCSS, maintenance, IFTA, really whatever you need. So to give you an idea of a bit of our demographics, about half of new clients that sign on with us are coming from another fuel management provider. The other half are coming from a clipboard. They're tracking fuel with a pen and paper and using manual fuel logs, delivery receipts. They're deciphering drivers' handwriting and chasing employees down to make sure their paperwork is filled out correctly and on time. Those can both be a struggle. The interesting thing about that is that even though our new clients are split down the middle in regards to where they're coming from, we still see about 60 to 70% of them across the board who have a drop in fuel consumption over that first 30 to 60 days of signing with us. That can be from a variety of different factors, like fixing spills or leaks from the old equipment when they're installing a new link2pump unit. It could be from instituting a set standard that drivers and operators need to follow, whether that's limiting them to a certain amount of gallons per day, certain amount of transactions per week. Maybe it's our ability to measure average miles per gallon so we can see if someone is driving a bit more aggressively than others. But the reality is that theft is usually some percent of that equation. So that's something we always like to keep in mind. So 3 strategies as far as the operations that we kind of go off of are strict consumption control, centralized fuel management, and total real-time visibility. Most people I talk to either say they're not worried about theft, or if they are, they recognize it's probably not a lot, but with the rapid increase in fuel prices and the volatility that can happen at any point, which we've already seen, they're unwilling to continue looking the other way, and they kind of just want it to stop. Some companies are even trusting enough to let their employees, fill their personal vehicles with the tank they have on site, and maybe they reconcile at the end of the month or end of the week, something like that. Our system ensures that theft stops before they put their hand on that pump. And if you happen to be one of those generous employers or fleet controllers who allows their employees to fill their personal vehicles, we can take all the guesswork and manual tracking off your plate. No matter what piece of link2pump equipment you're using, we're tracking who filled that vehicle with what type of fuel, what tank it came from, how much they dispensed, what time it happened, and what your remaining tank capacity is. So not only can we track all of that, we can be as restrictive or permissive as you want us to be with each step of that authorization process. So if you want to stop fraud and theft on day one, just limit every vehicle to its own tank capacity. If someone types in a category code for a lawnmower or a golf cart, there's no reason they need to be dispensing 50 gallons of fuel. Do you have a new employee on their probation period? Limit them to only filling up gas cans and generators. Do you have a fleet that drives the same route every day or the same amount of miles per week? Institute an odometer or hour meter minimum that they need to meet before they can fill up again. And that can be whether they're typing it into the keypad or directly integrating it with our unit and your telematics system to really avoid mistakes or fraud completely. We can get as granular as you want, but at the end of the day, we're really just achieving what you all should expect, using the fuel that you have on site to keep your business running without having to worry about the legitimacy of every single transaction. So automating the process, taking hours of labor off your plate is really just a bonus. You can't manage what you don't measure. If you aim at nothing, you hit nothing. If you want to do something different, you have to do something different. You can think about it however you'd like, but you can't plug the hole in the boat if you don't know where the water's coming from. So without an automated fuel management system, it can take up to 30 days to realize that you're losing money to unaccounted for fuel. Every time someone fills up, you get every piece of data I just mentioned with the added benefit of each of those metrics falling into a bucket or category to make your job even easier. Every transaction gets categorized into what company it belongs to, what job site, location, division or department, vendor or employee, tax rebate eligible or not, idle time, PTO, off-road detection, blah, blah, blah. There's no more VLOOKUPs in Excel or digging through reports trying to allocate different assets. You tell our onboarding team how you want things broken down, where your drivers and equipment belong, what you want that authorization process to be, what limits you want to impose, and the rest is set it and forget it. You let your drivers do their job every day, and you get to watch all that data fall into exactly what bucket you need it to in order to make your life easier. So buy in bulk, never run empty. We are using, in this example, 12,000 gallons across 4 different yards. Sometimes from other providers, what we see is misallocation of fuel consumption. And now all that does is give you a movement of fuel. Now you still have to go in and manually track or reconcile all of that data and every single transaction. Link2pump manages your usage and consumption of fuel, but we've had a virtual tank monitoring feature in our system for years, which is definitely better than nothing. But if you don't have a physical tank monitor, which is the other side of that equation, or if you're relying on the meter from your delivery driver or fuel distributor, you're really just taking their word for what they gave you. If you paid for 5,000 gallons, how do you know they didn't give you 4,950? Unless you have an unbiased, objective way to measure, you're getting exactly what you paid for, you might be getting shorted without realizing it. Through our partnership with Fuel One, we can now provide a solution for the other part of the fuel equation, deliveries. Our tank monitors give you continuous readings, not the 3 to 4 per day that other providers might give you. And you can monitor your levels anytime you want and set up automatic alerts so you can schedule deliveries accordingly, never get too close to empty. Every tank is broken down in its own section within the portal. And just like the rest of your assets, we can allocate specific tanks to specific locations or job sites. Stop fraud when it happens, not next month. Just as I mentioned, if you are trying to do extra labor and extra homework, you can track down theft. It's still requiring a manual process on your part. The whole point of having a fuel management system, like I said before, is to make sure that what you're using and what you're paying for are the same thing. By using our theft prevention measures, fraud and misallocation of fuel can be significantly reduced or eliminated entirely, depending on how restrictive you want that authorization process to be. And because our equipment works off of an open SIM card with unlimited free data and multi-network redundancy, even if someone does find a way to steal, which is pretty tough, you'll see that transaction within a couple seconds. You can set up alerts and make sure that you're aware as soon as it happens and make sure it doesn't happen again. IoT fuel controllers for every environment. These are kind of our bread and butter. We have our pedestal unit for stationary tanks, our mobile unit for mobile refuelers. We've got our job site unit for stationary tanks, or if you happen to be bringing these to different job sites, and then our pickup trucks for skid and auxiliary tanks. The biggest benefit to the job site really is if you don't have constant power, being able to switch over to 12 volt is really convenient, but they all kind of operate off of the same premise. Someone needs to complete that authorization process in order to fill up. And like I mentioned earlier, you may have a restriction on the back end, a left and right lateral limit that you want to impose. So as soon as they type in that information, all that cellular data sends that transaction straight to the portal, and you get access to it immediately. If a carrier goes down, it'll automatically default over to the next network. And if something crazy happens and every single network has an outage at the same time, these can store over 1,000 transactions internally. And as soon as a connection is reestablished, all that data will get sent straight to your online portal. So the pump does not start until the driver is identified. That authorization process I mentioned earlier is customized by us based on your needs and specific use cases. Every industry is different, obviously, and every company within that industry operates differently. So our equipment essentially operates as a circuit breaker that's upstream from the pump. So that pump will not turn on unless all those steps in the authorization process are met. And even if they are, just as I said, we can have the system cut them off automatically based on the limits for that driver, vehicle, location, or job site. Instituting odometer or hour meter minimums is a great way to reduce theft. But if you're cynical like me, you know that if someone wants to steal, they'll probably find a way. If you want to eliminate that possibility and prevent them from either fudging the numbers to get more fuel or making a mistake when typing on the keypad, ask our onboarding team to use our open API to integrate directly with your telematics system and get a live reading every time someone fills up. 100% cloud, no local software, zero IT lift. So here's a list of the few integrations that we already have built out. But if you don't see what you're looking for, we can still make it work. The vast majority of our software integrations are included with the annual subscription for each unit, in addition to the lifetime warranty for all link-to-pump equipment, the data plan for that open SIM card I mentioned, onboarding and online training, and the upload of your entire fleet. Access the portal from your phone, device, or tablet without any compatibility issues. Audit-proof your fuel tax rebates automatically. So some companies, based on their operations, qualify for fuel tax rebates, whether that's from using PTO, power takeoff vehicles, or using on-road fuel for off-road purposes. I talk to people every day who are either unaware that they qualify, or they know that they do, but it's either not worth filing, or they know that they're not tracking their usage correctly, so they kind of lowball their numbers to try and avoid an audit. Another great part about our system is that just like that automatic asset allocation to specific companies and job sites, departments, things like that, we can automatically track which vehicles qualify for fuel tax rebates and how much of their usage goes towards that amount you get back after filing. Odometer and hour meter usage can be tracked and logged, so all you have to do is click 2 buttons, and you can have each category broken down, get an estimate for what you're looking at getting back versus what you spent, all with 0 hours of extra labor. Just like the rest of the portal, if you find a discrepancy or make a mistake, all you have to do is let us know. We can change the exemption rate on the back end, and the entire report is updated. Live platform demo, the fun part. So now all you guys will get to see what our online portal looks like. This is our system overview. This is where all your data gets sent. As I mentioned before, things are on maybe 10-second delay. Using that open SIM card is really nice because if you have coverage with Verizon, great. If not, or if there's an outage, it'll automatically default over to that next network. So you see on this system overview page, the home page, you get kind of a high-level overview up top. This is obviously just kind of showing you how many total pumps and tanks you have. You get this cool interactive graph in the middle, and you can change that rolling date range up here on the top right. If you scroll down below, you get a little bit more data. That concept is going to apply to every one of these categories. If we go down the left here, users, admins can make changes, non-admins cannot. They're essentially locked into a view-only mode. And keep in mind, everything that we see in the portal today is completely unlimited. The only thing that you pay for at the end of the day is the unit itself, the annual subscription associated with it. That's it. You can, if you have one pedestal unit, you're operating a 500-gallon gas tank. You can have 1,000 different users, 5,000 different pieces of equipment, it really doesn't matter. You're not nickel and dime for it. You don't have to worry about running out of credits or clicking a button and now you've got a surprise bill at the end of the month. So going down the side here, companies you can think of as job sites, locations, departments, divisions, sometimes clients for fuel distributors. This is where all those transactions are going to fall into those buckets that I mentioned. So it's either going to fall into a specific entity, department, division, or internal and external consumption, meaning is this coming from a transfer tank or like a skid or auxiliary tank, a mobile refueler, or is this operating off of the internal factory tank? This is really a nice hidden benefit of the link2pump platform, because at least from what clients have told me is that other providers will kind of track this, but what they really do is they track the movement of fuel. So let's say that you filled up a 500-gallon transfer tank, you drive it out to a job site and use 100 gallons of that to fill up half a dozen different vehicles. Again, from what I've been told is when you log into those other platforms, what you see is, hey, it looks like you had an outflow or a movement of 600 gallons of fuel today. It came out of this vehicle or this tank. That's better than nothing, but it's obviously not correct. You had, more accurately 500 minus 100. That 100 went to all these different vehicles. With our system, it will automatically track that. Again, no extra labor. Every time someone fills up, they're going to be required to complete that authorization process. And if they don't do it correctly, system cuts them off. It's just like typing in the wrong pin at Chevron. And then on the back end, like I mentioned earlier, if they hit their allotment for transactions, gallons per week, they hit the tank capacity for that vehicle, system's going to cut them off, and they're going to have to start a new transaction if the system allows. So going down the left here, again, everything in here is completely unlimited. We do take care of that initial upload of your entire fleet for you. So you don't have to worry about sitting here for hours and typing everything in manually. But as far as making changes, it's very, very simple. If you want, if I had to hand this over to you and say, where do you think you're going to go to add a driver? You're going to click the driver section, click register. You can enter them one by one, or you can drag and drop a spreadsheet. We really try our best to make the entire portal operate like that. We make it as intuitive as we can. Onboarding and online training takes maybe an hour or two to get people up to speed. But like I said, I can hand this over to 70, 80% of people. They can figure it out inside of an hour. So going down the left here again, vehicles, this is where you're going to go to see the transactions more specific to equipment. Obviously, this is going to be pretty similar to the driver's page, but it's going to be more specific to the equipment versus the person. So if you want to see any telematics integrations that you have, this is where you'll go. What's really nice, again, about our system is these odometer readings that you're seeing here are not being manually typed in on the keypad. So if you want a direct integration with a telematics system like Samsara, Geotab, T3, anything like that, not only can we remove that step for the driver, eliminating any kind of guesswork or mistakes, but we can still collect that information at time of fill up. And now you can be even more restrictive with your process. So if you want to say, hey, you're required to drive the tractor or the skid steer for 6 hours before you can fill up again, that's what they're going to have to meet. If you want to require they drive the F-150 for 100 miles before they can fill up and they meet that allotment, now they're limited to the tank capacity of that vehicle, which is 23 gallons. Great. So we have a lot of different methodologies to prevent theft, misallocation of fuel, things like that. The tank monitoring that I mentioned earlier, this is really cool. I know I mentioned that we used to have just a virtual tank monitoring feature. Again, that's better than nothing. But at the end of the day, if you're putting in a delivery for 5,000 gallons, you need to make sure that that's what you're getting. Our system will track everything down to the 100th of a gallon. But if you're getting shortchanged 200, our system will say you've got an extra 200 gallons, whereas in reality, you guys are running on empty. So as of a few months ago, with that new partnership with Fuel One, now we can offer a solution for that part of the equation. This is where you'll go to check on those levels. If you don't want to have to spend a whole lot of time in here every day or every week, all you have to do is talk to onboarding, have them set up automatic alerts and monitoring, and make sure you get that notification so you can schedule a delivery accordingly. Deliveries, this probably intimidates people the most, but it is by far the simplest. All you have to do to input a delivery is click on the delivery section, click the tab up here, input your information. I do always recommend inputting fuel costs so that we can get a accurate dollar cost average of every single gallon that flows out of that tank. But this is super simple, takes maybe 15 seconds. And the really great part is you do not have to input these as your deliveries come in. This, along with our virtual tank monitoring feature, allows you to input those deliveries whenever you have time, backdate the delivery receipt, and it will retroactively correct your available tank capacity. So if you do make a mistake, you don't have to worry about it. You input the wrong date, anything like that. It's not going to affect the rest of your analytics or your reporting. But as I said, you can backdate that anytime you want, and it will retroactively correct that. Pumps is going to be a very similar concept. You won't spend a whole lot of time here. This is just to make sure that things are operating correctly. You want to spot check things and make sure everything is good to go. Reports, obviously, is where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. A really great one that I like to show people is the fuel tax rebate report. So again, I know I mentioned earlier, if you qualify for fuel tax rebates, it is automatically going to fall into a bucket of does it qualify, does it not? If it does, what category does it fall into? What is the exemption rate for that state? And does that vehicle have an automatic or a separate exemption rate for that? This requires no extra labor, makes it really, really easy to get a little bit of money back at the end of the year. And again, it doesn't require you to do anything. All of this is generated automatically just by the drivers operating the equipment on a day-to-day basis. So I think that is pretty much everything as far as the rest of the platform goes. Don't take our word for it. You're more than welcome to jump onto our YouTube, look us up on our website. Feel free to take a screenshot of this. Mac, it's going to be Command Shift 4, Control Shift 4 if you're on Windows. I'm sure you know how to take a screenshot if you're on your phone. So I'll leave this up here for a second. We do have this QR code up here. This is going to be our booking link. If you want to schedule a call, make sure you get a jump start on really tracking your fuel. And again, making sure that what you're using and what you're paying for are the same things. So I will shortly turn it over to a couple questions. I know we've already got two. And then if we have time, we can jump into sending out a couple polls to you guys. So let's see. We're going to give you guys a minute or two to type in any questions you have, anything that I haven't covered, any catch-22s that you're worried about. I want to make sure that we don't leave anything unanswered. While you guys are kind of thinking of questions to throw in there, I have a third one right now. So another really great part about this ecosystem is not only can you be up and running in less than a few weeks after ordering, since these can be installed by any local electrician in less than a couple hours, you don't need a certified technician. Not only are we highly, highly competitive when it comes to pricing, but bang for your buck and the distance that your dollar goes, we're flat out unbeatable. If we can prevent one person from putting diesel into a gas vehicle, the unit pays for itself. If we can conservatively take 10 hours of labor a month off your plate, the unit pays for itself. If we can reduce your fuel consumption by 1, 2, 3%, which, as I mentioned earlier, is not uncommon, if we can get just some of that money you spend on taxes back in your pocket through fuel tax rebates, that takes 0 hours of extra labor to track, the unit pays for itself. If one of your drivers backs into a pedestal unit and it can't be fixed, you compare us to anyone else out there, and with our lifetime equipment warranty, it pays for yourself, pays for itself. So if you want to bring real efficiency to your fuel management and stop losing money by next month, our team is ready to design a custom project for your fleet. Make sure I'll make that QR code just a little bit bigger for you guys. So feel free to take a screenshot of that on your phone, computer, or you can just go directly to our website, link2pump.com, and click the Contact Us page. You can schedule a call with one of our fuel management experts, and we'll design a custom solution specifically for your fleet. Let's check on those questions. If we have time, we will jump into a poll. Right. Let's see here. All right, so we've got Rick. Does the reporting actually hold up for IFTA and off-road tax claims? Yes. We are not tax experts. We will coordinate with you when we're doing the initial upload of your fleet. We do have a state on-off exemption form, so you guys can check that for reference. We always do recommend, checking with your CPA, comptroller, whoever, make sure everything is up to date. There's no random exemptions that the government likes to throw in there without telling anybody. But absolutely, we created that specific audit section because we had a couple clients that had bad luck. They had IFTA audits. They said, hey, that reporting section is great, but I could really use a dedicated section for IFTA. So now you can do that in a couple clicks. It makes it very easy. And that on-off-road and PTO exemption form, like I showed you earlier, it takes 2 clicks. All you guys have to do is jump into the reporting section, click fuel tax rebates, and you can see exactly what you spent, what you're looking at getting back, everything broken down by category, exemption type. So again, if it's not worth it, you don't think it's worth filing, then don't do it. But it requires $0, 0 hours of extra labor. Just let our onboarding team know when we're doing that initial upload. We'll program everything in accordingly. And if December 31st, you're due $11, then it's probably not worth filing. But you'd be surprised how many of our clients either don't realize that they qualify, or they know that they qualify, but they just don't think that it's worth it. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, let's say in a worst case scenario, you get audited, IRS or IFTA, whatever it is, they find a discrepancy. You just let us know. We can change that on the back end, and it retroactively corrects the entire report. So really the whole goal here is, again, theft prevention and maintenance prevention. I think really the hidden kind of gold standard benefit is labor reduction, taking some more stuff off your guys' plate, and hopefully making your life just a little bit easier. All right, we've got Travis. We have some really old mechanical pumps on our farm. Do we need to upgrade them to digital first? Probably, I would recommend that. Really, the only requirement that our systems have is that the pump have power or a pulse output. Unless it is fully mechanical or gravity fed, it's 30, 40, 50, 70 years old, which we've come across. We are going to need some type of power source to work with. People ask me all the time, hey, will this work better, or is it optimized with its own power source? We do not recommend doing that. The whole goal is to make sure that our unit is acting as a circuit breaker. So we want this thing to be upstream from the pump, whether you're using the pedestal unit, the mobile job site, pickup truck unit, lube truck, whatever it is. We want this thing to be upstream from the pump and tell the pump, hey, you cannot turn on unless all these steps are met, that authorization process that I mentioned. And even if you do meet all these steps, maybe I have some restrictions on the back end. Maybe you are an employee on a probationary period and I want to limit you to the lawnmowers and the leaf blowers. And again, as far as theft prevention, what we don't want is someone being too generic and too permissive, someone typing in a category code for a 5-gallon gas jug and being able to, dispense 50 gallons of fuel. So I know cost is always a factor. It's always something that you have to keep in mind. But if you're operating with a mechanical or a gravity-fed pump, you're going to be hard-pressed to find any fuel management system out there that has an electronic controller and some type of cellular or wireless connection where you don't need to upgrade that. The added benefit is that whoever handles the install, whenever they're swapping out the pump, which is pretty cheap and pretty affordable, when they're installing the unit, whichever one you need, they can check for spills and leaks and just make sure that we're starting with a fresh slate and no misallocation of fuel, essentially. Greg, our main yard has terrible Wi-Fi. How does the pedestal connect to the cloud? So with the exception of the pickup truck unit, that's the only one that works off of an app, which is going to be on the driver's phone. Every other unit has that open SIM card that I mentioned. It's a bit hard to see if you go look at our images on our website, click solutions. You can click on any one of them besides pickup truck unit and you'll be able to see it. It's a little circular black dot on top. That's the open SIM card. It's ready to go out of the box. There is no activation fee. There's no data plan, anything like that. We really try to make this as simple and honest as possible. You pay for an equipment cost, you own that equipment. It is not a rental, it is not a lease. You can do with whatever that equipment is you see fit. And the annual subscription is not due until you install and activate that unit or 90 days after you sign up with us, whichever comes first. We do have an automatic renewal, but if you don't want to for whatever reason, you just want that thing to be a controller with no data, let us know. We don't have to renew it. We really try to make this thing as intuitive as we can. But yeah, I mean, everything is going to have a cellular connection. The way we look at it is the more moving parts there are, the more potential points of failure. So if we're another fuel management provider who's been around for 30, 40 years, and we're trying to retrofit very old equipment, what are we probably going to do? We're going to send out Wi-Fi modules. We're going to send out extra pieces that are, cellular capable. That's extra money that you have to shell out, and it's an extra part. The way we look at it is we try to make it simple, intuitive. At the end of the day, this is a really smart circuit breaker with a cell phone SIM card in it, and all the restrictions and limitations are on the back end. So you guys basically tell us, hey, this is what my desired end state is. This is what I want the authorization process to be. You don't have to worry about anything else. You can basically just sit back. Some of you may end up being part-time after going with us, but you can click refresh on that portal that I showed you. All of those transactions are going to be sent there through that open SIM card within a couple seconds. So I did have one client ask for a Wi-Fi module, which we do offer. He thought that he didn't have coverage out there, but like I said, it does have multi-network redundancy. So I always recommend don't spend the extra money on something you aren't sure that you need. Let's get that stuff up and running. If you really don't have any coverage from any carrier in your location, which I have never seen once in the last couple of years, then we can kind of cross that bridge when we come to it. But again, we don't want you spending extra money if you don't need to. All right, let's see if we can send out a couple polls. Hopefully all you guys have figured out how to use the left-hand section. All right, let's do this one. How are you currently tracking your fuel consumption? So whenever you guys have a second on the left-hand side, just go ahead and answer with one of those responses. Right. Wow, okay. Everything is split exactly by, oh no, we get another response. All right, so we've got about, let's see. Wait for the last one to send in their response. All right, so as of right now, about 42% of you are still tracking everything with pen and paper. You're on a clipboard. Again, you're not alone. Like I mentioned earlier, about half of new clients that sign with us are in the same boat. What we've seen is I've never had someone come to me and say, hey, Jordan, I think somebody might be stealing 1,000 gallons a week. That being said, most people do tell me, hey, I'm aware there's probably some theft. There's probably some shady business going on. If it's 3 gallons here, 5 gallons there, I really don't care that much. But if I could make it stop without having to have any difficult conversations or having to fire anybody, that would be great. Because that 2 or 3% of fuel misallocation 3 months ago is now 6, 7, 8%, depending on what kind of fuel you're using. So it can add up very quickly. Obviously, you want to keep everyone honest. In my experience, it really just comes down to how you want to address this stuff with your employees. But from what I've seen, if you tell them how this system works, if they have been stealing, they're probably going to stop because they know the free ride's over. If John Smith has been skimping 5 gallons here, 10 gallons there, maybe he's filling up the work vehicle and throwing a couple gallons into his F-150. If he knows that our system will, 10 seconds after hanging up that pump, will send his name, the vehicle he filled up, the type of fuel he used, what tank and pump it came from, how much he dispensed, the equipment, vehicle, or category code that he entered, he'd be pretty dense to continue to steal. So as I mentioned earlier, I think the simplest way to prevent theft on day one without having to worry about being too restrictive for your employees and our system essentially being a hindrance to their operations is just start off day one, limit every vehicle to its own tank capacity. We can worry about odometer and hour meter minimums later. We don't have to worry about allocation to job sites and divisions and blah, blah, blah. That doesn't take a whole, a long time. We can figure that out month one, but starting off, just limit, a 5-gallon gas jug to 5 gallons. Limit a Ford F-150 to 23 gallons. It's the simplest way to go about it. Another 40% of you are essentially just reconciling everything at the end of the month. This is typically where I see the most leads or future clients tell me, hey, I'm aware that there's some theft taking place. It's, maybe it's accidental. People are just not doing what they're supposed to. I do have to spend quite a lot of time having difficult conversations, calling people on their off time. Hey, did you fill out your fuel log? Where are your delivery receipts? Hey, Bob, I can't read your handwriting. Like I mentioned earlier, the whole goal of this system is to make sure that what you're using and what you're paying for are the same thing. About 60 to 70% of the time, that's not the case. I know I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, fuel really represents about 30% of your operating budget. If you're using an unmonitored tank, that 3 to 5% of fuel theft, fraud, misallocation can jump up pretty fast to 7, 8, even 9%. So if you're reconciling at the end of the month, you're essentially playing catch up, obviously. But if you are not having any kind of electronic controller, any automatic fuel management, it can take 30 days to figure out that there's even a discrepancy. So again, our system essentially automates that entire process. If you want to think about any kind of delay, you can click refresh, or it takes 10 seconds. But again, we can be as restrictive or permissive as you want. So essentially just take some more stuff off your plate, hopefully reduces quite a bit of labor, and allows you to kind of inspect what you expect. It looks like the remaining 14% of you are using an automated fuel management system. So awesome. The fact that you're here tells me that maybe you're not getting everything you need. Maybe that's me being cautiously optimistic. But hopefully you guys book a call with us and do a demo so you can see everything in more detail. I do want to make sure all the questions are answered. Every catch-22 is covered. I don't want you guys to wonder, hey, if this happens 6 months down the road at 2 a.m. or on a Friday night, what happens? Before we do the other poll, I did miss one question. Let's see, Travis. Our yard gets pretty rough weather. What happens if the keypad gets smashed? Lifetime warranty. So short of you guys taking a baseball bat to it every week, or hopefully we don't get calls from you every couple of days saying, hey, the unit's busted, and then we see it selling it on Facebook Marketplace or something crazy like that. But we'll try to help you troubleshoot it. We'll do a call with you, FaceTime, Google Meet, whatever. If we need to partner with a local installer to come out there, we want to make sure things get fixed. In a worst case scenario, you will have a physical bypass key. So if it does happen at 2 a.m, if it does happen on a holiday or a weekend or something like that, at least in the meantime, you can still track fuel. You know who's using it, where it's going, all that kind of stuff. But if your unit's busted, we'll send you out a free replacement. That's what that annual subscription covers. And that covers shipping as well. If we're going to cover something with a lifetime warranty, we're not going to charge you to ship it out to you. So again, hopefully, if you guys have any clumsy employees or family members, which is what I hear more often, put some pylons next to it, caution tape, whatever. But you can hopefully sleep a little more sound at night knowing that all that link2pump equipment is covered with a lifetime warranty. So anything happens, whether it's user error, someone backs into it, manufacturing defect, anything like that, we will absolutely cover it and stand behind it. All right, let's see if we can do another poll. All right. What is your timeline for upgrading your fuel management systems? Give you guys a minute. All right, we got almost everybody. All right, so we got about 42% of you are actively looking to implement a new solution. It's great to hear. That's what I love to hear. 28% evaluating options, and another 28% just researching and gathering. Awesome. I talk to small businesses, family farms and ranches that probably at least once a week, fuel delivery businesses, things like that. a rule of thumb I kind of use is if you're using less than 5,000 gallons of fuel a year, maybe this is me being a bad sales guy, but link2pump probably right now is not the best fit. Yes, you will get a lot of benefit. We will absolutely provide the same benefits to a two-person, employee company as someone who's our biggest client that's got 5,000 employees. You still get the lifetime warranty. Every client gets the same level of access. That being said, if you are a two-person operation, you're using 2,000 gallons of fuel a year. If it takes you 2 or 3 years to break even on going with a fuel management system, I would argue it's probably not worth it. That being, maybe in the future when we look into financing and payment plans and things like that, it'd be a little more feasible. I would say throw a camera up there, tell your cousin to stop stealing fuel or spilling stuff or whatever, and I think you'll probably be good. That being said, if you are exploring other options or you're just researching, please go to our website. And then I would say the most common providers that we run into are providers like Fuel Cloud, Fuel Master, to Calumet, and maybe SmartFill. Go look at all of those different websites, compare upfront pricing, ongoing pricing, and what you get for that. Again, we're very competitive both for equipment and subscription pricing, but bang for your buck, that nobody else is going to come close to us. Maybe someone's cheaper on the front end, but maybe they are, $500 a month in annual subscriptions. Maybe you don't get a warranty. Maybe they have some hidden transaction fees that they're charging you 2 cents per gallon that you don't find out about until 6 months down the road, and you get a $13,000 bill. Why do I say it? Because it's happened before. So again, inspect what you expect. I would much rather tell you, hey, link2pump is not a good fit for you right now, or let's explore this in a couple months. Maybe institute a couple theft prevention and maintenance prevention measures, see if there's any discrepancies. And if before going with an electronic fuel management company like link2pump, you see a 2% drop in your fuel consumption, that's a red flag in a good way, because that means that you're doing the right things. Maybe then we can explore going with a single pedestal unit, a job site unit with 1 pump, something like that. We can always expand down the road. The last thing I want is to convince you guys need something when you don't, have you be pissed off in 6 months and say, hey, this wasn't worth it. So again, I want to make sure all questions are answered, all hypotheticals and catch-22s are covered, and you guys have a chance to look at other providers and make sure that your dollar is going as far as it can possibly go, and you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. All right, let's do one more poll. We're about 1 minute over on time. I don't want to steal too much of your guys' day. All right, last one. What is your biggest frustration with fuel management today? You guys a couple minutes to answer. I already have an idea of which direction this one's going to sway. All right, almost there. Wow, okay. This is a more even spread than I expected. So we've got about 44% of people saying their biggest frustration is lack of real-time visibility. Definitely understand that. Like I mentioned earlier, we want to make sure that we can prevent theft, prevent maintenance issues. But really, I think the hidden kind of dark horse benefit of link2pump is labor reduction. Most of our clients, fuel represents one of their biggest expenses, usually 20 to 30% of their operating budget. But what's the larger expense than that? It's labor. So it's not uncommon for us to speak with a comptroller, fleet manager, CFO, whatever, who's verbatim told us, hey, this system seems too good to be true. If we go with you guys, I don't know if I'm going to have to take a pay cut or I'm going to have to go to part-time, because I'm spending 10, 15, 20 hours every quarter or every month tracking down fuel logs, delivery receipts, making sure that these guys fill this stuff out at the time of fill up or dispensing to make sure it's all accurate and up to date. And I don't even have time to file for fuel tax rebates, because even if I did, if I thought it was worth it, now what am I going to do? Hand over physical receipts to the IRS or my CPA? Now you're just, again, like I mentioned with our equipment, you're adding in more potential points of failure. So if we can make that automatic fuel management objective and unbiased, and make those reports automatically just by you guys using the equipment on a day-to-day basis, then in my opinion, my biased opinion, it's a no-brainer. A lot of money is left on the table specifically with fuel tax rebates. But again, theft prevention and labor reduction is the really, really big one. Even if nothing changes, let's say that, conservatively, we reduce your fuel consumption by 1%, nothing else changes. If we can take 10 hours of labor, off of your plate per week or per month, whatever, again, the system pays for itself. If we can make your job easier, give you more time to do something more productive, more useful, maybe hang out at home with the kids if you're lucky enough to have a work from home job. We really just try to give you as much data as we can to do with as you see fit, to make your life easier, to make sure that what you're using and what you're paying for are the same thing. Sometimes it doesn't seem like a big ask, but it ends up being a big ask when, 22% of you, your biggest frustration is misallocation of fuel, unaccounted for fuel, loss, theft, fraud, all that kind of stuff. 22% is a decent amount. So if we can reduce your fuel consumption even by 3 to 5%, let's say, marginally take a couple hours of labor off your plate, this is set it and forget it. We take care of that initial upload of your entire fleet. We'll do the onboarding and online training. I would say 99% of integrations that I've come across in the last couple of years, we do completely for free. I think the only exception for that right now is very, very intricate geofencing. But if you want HCSS, maintenance, IFTA, telematics systems, anything like that, you just tell us what you want. You tell us what requirements you want a driver to have to complete every time they fill up, and you give us your desired end state. You can be hands off at that point if you want to be. We'll communicate with your other software platform, whatever. We'll do that API build out for you. And you just let us know if you want to make any tweaks. Like I said, people typically start off a little permissive to make sure that we're not acting as a hindrance. And as time goes on, we end up being a little more restrictive to really tighten down and say, hey, bus driver 7 has 4 miles per gallon less than everybody else. Maybe that guy's going outside of his route. He's being a little more aggressive. We have misallocation of fuel, whatever. But you'd be surprised how granular we can get with the system. I don't want to bore you guys to death with the ins and outs of a software platform that don't apply to you. So please go to our website, or if you'd like, you can scan the QR code. Hopefully you guys got a chance to take a screenshot of that earlier. Let's see. So if you go to our website, link2pump.com, click the contact us page. That'll essentially farm it out to one of our reps. We'll schedule a call or a demo with you and build out a custom solution. If you don't have a chance to go there, let's see, I will. Share my screen. Hopefully make it just a little bit easier for you guys to take a screenshot of this. Again, do it with your phone, use your camera, laptop, whatever. Leave that up there for another few seconds. Right, hopefully you guys got a chance to take a screenshot of that. Please reach out to us. We're more than happy to speak with you, cover any hypotheticals, any questions that I didn't answer today. I really, really appreciate all of you taking time out of your day. I know I went a couple minutes over. This is our first webinar, so hopefully we'll be a little bit more on point next time. Thank you again. I really appreciate you taking the time and attending, being, participating, asking questions, answering the polls, all that kind of stuff. Please reach out to one of us. We're more than happy to schedule a demo. I look forward to speaking with you and helping out however I can. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week. I'll see you later.